Digitally connected environments. Obviously, we know how this generation is texting and connecting, and they've dragged the rest of it into this. I swore 2 years ago, you are not going to get me texting. I just won't use that form of communication. It's too impersonal. Well, I might as well just not even have a conversation with my wife then, because that's all she does now. I mean, I've been standing here, and I can feel my phone buzzing in I know what's going on. My wife is doing something back home where she's going to be texting me 5 or 6 times during the course of the morning to get to understand what direction we're headed together on this. That's the way that we communicate now. So we've been dragged into that. What's that, Mike? Yeah. Well, I don't know what the question is yet, but I might as well just say yes. So that's the way that it happens. And, I learned this down in Cali, Colombia, when I was down there working with a couple of large congregations. We're on the outside of this issue, but this is rapidly changing. This generation doesn't carry cash the way previous generations do. They give in different ways. They give time, they give service, and when they give money, they give it in different ways. I watched offering time come in Cali, Colombia, when 2,000 people in a room designed for about 600 got up at offering time, and they didn't pass the bucket down the aisle. They all got up, and these are people that their average household income is $3,000 a year. They all have cards, they all have phones, and they all got up and walked over and swiped their cards or texted their pledges into the church during the offering time. They all, en masse, texted their money. That's the way they gave. We have to get smarter about this. We have to become more relevant in this, because this is a different generation that communicates value in a different way. It's not wrong, it's not evil, it's just different. And we need to be on top of how that's going to start impacting our churches. Very important. And the reason it's important is because in 2010, I'll just read these bar charts for you if you can't see them, but that big blue circle on the left is where income was derived from baby boomers. So the majority of income in 2010 was by far and away coming from baby boomers. I read or saw something last night. I got into the hotel about 1:30 last night, and I popped on the TV to fall asleep for a minute, and CNN or something like that was on, and they were saying that baby boomers are now retiring at the rate of 1 every 7.64 seconds. So I popped that into my calculator, or 6.8 seconds or whatever it was. I popped it into my calculator, and it came out to 11,600 per day. This generation is retiring very quickly, and of course it's the generation that's deriving all the cash. It's the generation that is supplying the churches. By 2016, the income derived from baby boomers is going to be far less. That piece of the pie, that blue piece of the pie, becomes much more diminished, and the other generations take over from an income standpoint. This generation, this millennial generation, and the ones preceding it are coming into their own. The problem is they're not going to church. So in church income in 2010, the baby boomers were largely supporting the churches. They got it. They gave in that way. They were consistent, supported tithers. They gave money. But the problem is in 2016, if the Barna statistics continue to prove out what has been actually happening over the past 10 years, if those statistics continue to follow the chart, in 2016, that red is the shortfall in our churches. So churches have to think differently about giving. And when I talk to churches about this, I have pastors all the time come up and say, we're seeing it every day. It's happening every day in our church this way. We're asking more and more and more for the baby boomers to continue to give, but they're going into fixed income positions and they can't give at the same levels. And we can't seem to get the millennials interested. We can get the millennials interested in service. We can't get the millennials interested in giving. And to some regard, it's because they look upon what's happened in previous generations as money supplanting service. Money is not an authentic communicator of your heart. That's what the millennial mindset would say on that issue, is that it actually comes down to service. Now, if you're service-oriented, your assets and your funds are all part of that. You know, I've been with churches before. I was with a church down in Southern California, a group from Dutch South Africa that came up to lead a interracial ministry up there. They have about 600 or 700 people there. Saw a very different model where they absolutely had the Acts 2 church nailed down. They were sharing with one another. You need a lawnmower? I have a lawnmower. You can have my lawnmower. Can I borrow it back sometime? Because I don't mow my lawn that often. I've got a very small yard, but your yard's much bigger. those kinds of sharing opportunities, that's much more of a millennial mindset than our mindset, which is to gather. They're not that way. They're sharers. They're going to do that. But they haven't really learned how to share. And I think there's some confusion in this culture about money. I think that there's a strong desire for affluence. There's a strong desire for the comforts of what money brings. But there's not a strong desire to do the things that the previous generation had to do in order to gain it, which is to become workaholics. This generation doesn't want to do that. So in many regards, very different. Yeah. It's about to die? Okay. Okay. How's that? There we go. Okay. Got a little reverb in there. So, understanding what the means are, certainly texting. There's churches out there nowadays that are actually using texting during the course of the ministry delivery or the word delivery to give feedback to the pastor. Questions coming forward using texting messages during his message so he can begin to attend and understand where the minds of people are. That's a very digitally connected sort of thing to do. There's organizations out there like MoPin. I just flashed that up real quickly. MoPin is an organization that we can give you some information on. We've got some sheets out there that allow you to get connected using texting as a tool to broadcast information. Those kinds of things can be very expensive as an individual church, but there's organizations that can do that very inexpensively for you.